It appears the president is entering a new chapter in his effort to question the results of the 2020 election and potentially sow doubt in the upcoming midterms. A new White House task force is expected to begin releasing documents on alleged and so far absolutely baseless evidence of election irregularities in the coming weeks. That is according to two officials with knowledge of the matter. An acting director of national intelligence, Bill Pulte, will be a part of it. I'm going to guess front and center. Joining the group chat, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rohde. What do we need to know, David?
So your summary was perfect, as always, but it's very concerning. This is, I think, the first of a bunch of efforts we're going to see between now and the midterm elections to sow doubt. And all this is unprecedented. So this task force in the White House is going through thousands of pages of classified documents from the CIA, the NSA, and looking for election irregularities. The president himself can declassify it, and they can cherry pick examples, that may be playing to the president's conspiracy theories. Just this week, last week, a top Justice Department official sent letters to every single election, all 50 states, to election officials saying, if you allow non-citizens to vote, we will prosecute you on federal charges. No election official that I've ever heard has intentionally allowed a non-citizen to vote. That is spreading the president's conspiracy theories about massive non-citizen voting. This is not in the story, but Secretary of State Rubio is hosting a conference of international leaders about the spread of Antifa worldwide. It is not a worldwide thing, but this is just what we're seeing. And then we've reported this before, but FEMA, which is supposed to provide grants, that the new tactic is to cut off FEMA grants unless state and local governments agree to election rules the president wants imposed. That is unconstitutional. The Constitution says state and local officials count the votes, so the president can't count the votes if they get reelected or not. And so all of this is just, I had one expert say to me, you're not crazy. No president has ever called it a whole of government approach of interfering in federal elections. The federal government has no role. And so that's what's so alarming.
Which is why the president has likely chosen Bill Pulte, who many critics, even Republicans, have said is wildly unqualified to do this job, to do the president's bidding for him.
Yeah, look, I had the privilege of serving on the House Intelligence Committee. So, I had access to the classified material that David's excellent reporting is talking about. What you worry about is that the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians want to screw around in our elections. Absolutely. And there's a proper role for the intelligence agencies and for the DNI in a coordinating role to know what they're doing and give the president options. So you take out the server farm through disruptive means before they can do things. But what it doesn't ever relate to is voting by Americans and or these fantasies about widespread fraud or partisan purposes. I mean, the point is there's no role for the intelligence community in counting votes, in looking at the integrity of the elections. The states administer this for a reason. This is a dangerous time, and I've said it before, and I don't want to alarm people, but I think that because they know they are likely to lose the midterms, the time to screw around is right now. And what they are doing is they are laying the groundwork so that in a handful of contested races in California, where the votes will get counted more slowly because of the way they do it in California, you're going to have potentially control of the House up for grabs, or even apparently in Republican control still briefly. And during that time, being able to say there's something wrong in these races, we can't let the states certify them, we're going to seize the ballots, we're going to take it to the House of Representatives, and the House will decide who it sits as its members. That is a coup. That is the end of regular democracy in the United States. And again, I don't think everybody in the administration would do that, but I think there's a handful of people around the president who are dangerous enough that they're laying the groundwork to be able to look at the elections through that jaundiced lens, and it's dangerous.
Is there anything Democrats can do now to prevent this?
Wow. I mean, vote. Because if the numbers are big enough.
That ain't enough.
No, but it starts there. And I do think everybody being up and wide awake is important because if you can steal an election by a couple of points, you can't steal it by 10. Or you can't, if the outcome is decided on election night because the margin's large enough, it gets very hard to claw it back. The point is that the vote does matter. I mean, Orban found this out in Hungary, right? I mean, so the number one thing is the citizens getting involved. But I would be very alert to all these little traditional barriers falling. There's no role for the intelligence community in a domestic election, and there's no role really for the federal. There's no role really for the federal government in these elections.
Well, hold, Eddie. Before the show, you just finished your book tour, and I asked you, what did you learn? How do people feel? Mm-hmm. And you said people feel lost. They can't find their own feet.
Right.
Couple that sentiment with what we're about to potentially face with these midterms, and where are we as a people, as a nation?
Oh, we're at the precipice. Folks are overwhelmed. Everything is coming at them at once. They're flooding the zone. They're flooding the zone with regards to the elections, right? So there's massive disinformation. There's one. There is the kind of what I have. They're going to deny the legitimacy of the outcome. They're going to deter the outcome by impacting who can vote. Voting Rights Act, redrawing districts, terrorizing communities with ICE. They're going to set up this. They're setting up the scenario. Well, not only are they going to impact who can vote, they're going to impact how they count the votes. And then they're going to deny the legitimacy of the outcomes if they don't agree with the outcome. So, yes, we have to vote in massive numbers, but folk need to be screaming from the top of their damn lungs because this goes to the heart of the polity. And so it seems to me that the people that I've met while I was on tour are thinking, I don't know what to do. They tell me to vote, but does that matter? Yes, it matters. But damn.
All right. I might sound naive here. Okay. I think other than
kind of been a theme for
other than the MAGA base, I think we all have election conspiracy fatigue. Okay, and I think a swing voter, a Trump voter, 16 to 20 to 24, all that sort of stuff, that I just don't think that this is the sort of thing that's going to resonate with them. I take everything that you guys are saying, and I just think that, again, we're going to get to a point where the elections are going to be run, and we know that there's not a lot of fraud one way or another, and it doesn't matter to me that we might not have, in the House in particular, the sort of, margin that would be decisive, but I think that we have issues as it relates to the MAGA base with the deep state. And I just don't think a swing voter is going to buy into that right now. So a little naive.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We're out of time. Great to see you again. You haven't been here in ages. Great to have you joining us.
That's a new set.